And we're live. Hi, my name is Tyree Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is another. We're back. 2021, man.
2021, Tyrese. We have crossed into the new year, my good brother. We are here. We are what 16 days in, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. How are you today on this evening? On this Saturday evening, I should say.
I'm doing good, man. I literally had to think about it, like, well, we haven't did this in a while, and now I'm thinking about it, it's like, wow, the last time we did this was for the Stephen Thompson and Jeff Neal. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, Mug. I mean, we obviously always talk about MMA, and we're glad to be back. But I want to say, it's been at least a month.
Yeah, I think
right? Wasn't the card?
Wasn't it the 16th or 17th or 18th? It was somewhere. It was before Christmas for sure.
It's definitely before Christmas, right? Because I remember we were talking about it. It had to be around like the 16th, and it was the 19th. So we're almost a month. We were almost a month, but luckily we came back in under a month. That's consistency. Consistency, sir.
So much has happened in the month. We've had almost an insurrection happen in the Capitol. The president is now off all social media platforms. You, sir, at one point had COVID. Like it's a lot happening.
Yeah. In the last 20 something odd days, we had an insurrection at the Capitol. We've had impeachment brought upon. We had people trying to impeach President Trump, which obviously is rightfully so. I caught COVID at the end of last year, and I was out for 2 weeks. But 2021 is looking good so far. That's all I can say. I have nothing else to say to it. I think it's shaping up.
Something. It's definitely something.
I'm glad to leave 2020 behind. I'm not gonna lie to you. And for everybody, you can catch COVID and you don't want it. You just really don't. It's bad. It's bad.
Well, I'm glad with you, man.
Healthy recovery. Luckily, no one else in my family got it. Of course, I'm what you call what's the term for healthcare workers?
I don't know.
What you call us? The people.
My mother's a healthcare worker. I should know
essential.
This. Yeah.
I'm one of the essential workers because I work for an outpatient cancer clinic. But I unfortunately got it at work, and so did quite a other few people. But that's okay. It's neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. And man, what a way to start off 2021 with Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. The UFC having their first show on ABC television.
First show back. ABC, Tyrese. ABC. What? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, just like you said, it's delivered.
Delivered. You know what's actually interesting when we think about the time? When's the last time UFC was on TV? Free. Not a streaming platform, and that was pre Disney deal, pre ESPN. Remember, we used to get fight nights on Fox for quite some time, right? That's how we always watched UFC, right? We watched the fight nights. We've seen countless fights on Fight Night. We saw Demetrius Johnson defend his belt on Fight Nights. We've seen crazy matchups in the welterweight division on Fight Nights, right? But the last time we saw it was years ago. So seeing it this time through ABC on TV for me was. It kind of brought me back to the days when we even first started watching The Ultimate Fighter on Spike TV. Remember those days? Come on, man.
Yeah, I think now you think about it, it's a good segue to talk about it. Like the significance of the UFC on ABC television. Like the last time the UFC was able to be on all platforms where everybody can watch it was the Fox era, and even the Fox era was more like FS1 sometimes, and sometimes you have the big Fox shows like the infamous Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez, the first one.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since you can call you today. I called my people and said, hey, listen, UFC's on ABC. It's free. You can watch it on your thing. Everybody has ABC channel.
Most people.
And it was interesting to just get get that speed. Oh wow, I'm gonna go watch it right now. Like it's like you forget like how significant a thing like ABC or Fox is, where everybody can get it and everybody can watch it, and there's no subscription service behind it. There's no paywall, and it just brings more exposure to your product.
Again, yeah, I agree 100%. Right, like you get the exposure. I don't know what they did to do it, right? But they get the exposure because TV is something that it's in almost every other household, right?
Right.
TV, everyone generally has a TV. Most people have some type of form of cable. ABC is one of the, even if you don't have cable, ABC is one of the channels I think you get without cable, correct? So
Yes.
maybe even without cable, you're able to view it. So I think not only was this a very smart business decision to not only rake in new fans for the new year, but also to bring back those older fans who say, you know what, I don't really want to invest in ESPN Plus. I don't have a
Right.
need to. I don't want to. Maybe I'll just stick to going to bars, but we can't go to bars now because things are closed and there's a minimum. You got to buy food, you got to buy drinks. So it's much harder to go out and be a lively person than than it was before. So with the introduction of UFC on ABC right now, you're bringing in old fans, new fans,
Right.
and the people who said didn't want ESPN, because now you set a precedent of this card was so great. Join ESPN, you get even more.
Right. Right. And just think about the UFC, how far they came. Like, remember, UFC used to be on Spike TV, like you mentioned. It used to be on a channel that's now forgotten. Remember Fuel TV,
dude.
Like, just bringing up those names that people today may not remember or are so far forgotten. Like, the UFC has come a long way from being, on Fuel, on Spike TV, which may not be accessible to everybody, trying out Facebook at one point and trying fights on Facebook, to now, UFC being on ABC, which, again, a lot more people can access it and can watch fights like this for the first time, and maybe introduced to more fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's a win. Honestly, it's a win-win for everyone. It's a win-win. It's free. Number one for anyone watching. It's free, generally, right? Then you become a fan because you saw the great fights that were on tonight. Now you're hooked. Now you want to say, how can I get more of this? That's the bottom line, is how do I get more? How do I get into this culture? Boom, now you're hooked. I think this is a great, very, very smart business decision for a UFC. I don't know who did it. Maybe Dana told them, let's do it. Maybe not. Maybe someone else thought of it as a great idea. But I 100% supported this decision to have the very first card of 2021 on national live television.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I hope is that the football game that's on right now with the Packers didn't take away from some of the viewership, which I would think it would. But I still think that this first showing on ABC, hopefully the numbers are good, and hopefully you'll see more of this in the future. But man, let's circle now to what everybody maybe want to listen to is Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar, and Max Holloway defeats Calvin Kattar by unanimous decision. Those words of saying winning by unanimous decision doesn't do it justice. Max Holloway put on probably the best performance I've ever seen.
Wait. Just because it's a new year, Tyrese, doesn't mean we're changing up the format, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, Flathead Politics once told me that I did a good job on it, so I thought I could try it out. But no, you go ahead. This is your show.
Tyrese, this is your show. I would love it. I would thrive if you started off the year. Please, sir. Please start off the year for us. It can only bring good luck and good fortune.
Oh, well, that's what they say. Not last night. Today on UFC, on ABC, we've seen Max Bless the Demon Holloway defeat Calvin Kattar in a 5-round absolute beatdown. Unanimous decision across the board, multiple 10-8 rounds. Max Holloway defeats Calvin Kattar, and is now moving on to potentially be next in line for either a featherweight title shot down the line, or if anybody gets hurt next week, he steps in and possibly fights the main event.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Max Holloway, we talked about this fight first, right? We knew the skill set that Kattar brings to the table. You have mentioned that there's something going on in Boston. They call themselves the Boston Cartel because we're seeing this resurgence there, this momentum that's evolution in the game that's bringing their fighters who are good. We know they're great to the next level, that top tier, top 5, that bringing them the moment this much closer to the belt, right? So going into this fight, we knew Kattar had all the tools. Not only does he have some of the best boxing in the featherweight division in UFC, but he also cuts the proper angles. He makes the necessary adjustments. He's proven that he can not only strike with his hands, but he has other creative tools like his elbows. He doesn't throw a lot of kicks, but he can use leg kicks to kind of get you to make those mistakes, right? So we know Kattar had the creative tools to do the job, but we haven't seen Max Holloway fight in a while. And gosh, we were reminded just how good he is. Max Holloway might be God tier level fighter, right? I don't say that about many fighters, right? Because some fighters do good, some fighters do great. I have always advocated to you, Tyrese, the day he beat Anthony Pettis, and we talked about this. I remember this. You said, I don't know, Pettis going to 145, that's a problem, because you always did say Pettis and Cerrone were two people who could go to 145 and do damage, right? Pettis drops down to 145, fights Holloway for the interim belt, loses, and then from that day on, I said, Tyrese, this is the greatest 145 in the world. You said, nah, he might not beat Aldo. We'll see. Beats Aldo. I said, Tyrese, give him the man the credit. He was like, yeah, this man's good. Tyrese comes to this rematch. Tyrese is like, nah, Holloway's not losing. Holloway beats him in, I think, just in one more round than he did the first time, or maybe even less. Fast forward to the Volkanovski fights. He lost the first one. We knew that. We saw that. Won the second one. There was no way he should have lost the second one. He had run round 1 through 3. Holloway did lose round 4 and round 5, and Volkanovski, heart of a champion, did what he did. But we haven't seen this man in the octagon for quite some time. First, I think this is his first fight back since that loss, correct?
Correct.
And from round 1 to round 5, Holloway did not miss a beat. Holloway's cardio, if anything, proved to be slightly better. His striking slightly better, evolved. Doesn't get too much better, right? Because he's already got here, but he's showing some new tricks, showing some new things. I mean, let's just go ahead and say this. He won by unanimous decision, but the scorecards read 50-43, 50-42, 50-43. I mean,
yep.
And there's no fight in any history of UFC or MMA, like actual big promotion like this, that I've seen, I could be wrong, where you had a 50-43. Was there ever a card, Tyrese, that you can remember a fight like that?
I can't, and we talked about it off air. Like, I can't remember a scorecard like that, and we never seen a performance like this to begin with. By the way, I love how you no-sold my whole introduction. I tried to copy or try to emulate you a little bit. You just totally no-sold, just blew past. I'm a little offended by that. But Max Holloway,
I was going to congratulate you at the end of the show, man. Come on, you ruined it for yourself, bro.
No, I thought you give me a compliment right off the bat, man. You don't wait till after the show. Give it to me now. Give me my roses while I'm still here.
Tyrese,
I thought Max Holloway had probably one of the best performances in the UFC to date by any fighter. I thought that was an amazing performance. It's like I put that up with the Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin performance. I put that up there with the Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez performance. Like the Israel Adesanya versus the Paulo Acosta performance. Like I thought, like he probably had
the last. Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos 3 performance.
Yeah. John Jones versus
every other opponent. Almost every other opponent, but all right.
Specifically the Gustafsson 2. I thought that
Gustafsson 2 for sure.
I
100% agree with that.
But like Max Holloway had this performance was probably the best I've ever seen a fighter dominate across the board, and not only just dominated with flash, and dominated, and like he could have still kept going for another 5 rounds.
I want to say the thing about Holloway was in round 1, we obviously we're watching separately, but we call each other between each round, right? I know this sounds crazy, fans, but we call each other because we always got something to say. That's just how it goes between us two.
We do.
The pace set so early was something, one, that Calvin Kattar has never experienced in not one of his fights in the UFC. Never. And with the volume, the pace is fine, but the volume and the pace together is the issue. And 2, by the 3rd round, the man wasn't breathing heavy. So it's like he could 5th round, he slowed down a little bit, but it wasn't enough to be like he's tired. You could tell when someone's tired. The man wasn't tired. He had at least 2 to 5 more. He had 3 to 5 more rounds in him. 3 to 5, somewhere between that number.
Yeah.
Sorry. You keep going. I'm sorry. I had to say it. I had to.
No. Yeah, you're right. I thought that with Max Holloway, I thought, this is reminiscent of the Ortega fight. But even the Ortega fight, it was more like Ortega was able to land shots against Holloway, and it was a bit of a back and forth until it wasn't. This one out the gate, it was Max Holloway overwhelming Calvin Kattar. Like in the Ortega fight, there was a little bit more of a hesitation, and Ortega was given some, and it looked like it was the numbers were close until it wasn't, and Max Holloway just broke away, and it was a beatdown, like we all know. But this one out the gate, Max Holloway was throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Calvin Kattar. Like I've never seen Max Holloway throw not oblique kicks. It wasn't really oblique kicks. It was more like side kicks to the knee.
So oblique kicks for the fans tend to be more inside with their foot pointed outwards, kind of like a inside step towards the thigh, right? That's what we call an oblique kick. The side kick that he was doing, he would jump up. Sorry, I lifted this is on my leg, so I lifted up by accident. He kind of positioned himself, in a kind of karate-like stance, lifts the knee up, and then stamps down. That's the goal of that side kick, and it just. I don't know if there's an injury. I don't know what's going on, but that kick that you pointed out, Tyrese, really set the tone for a lot of those inner engagements between the two.
Yeah, and also like you forget sometimes that Max Holloway can fight long, and like he can start a combination from the outside, and by the time the combination ends, he's already on the inside throwing the shots and already exiting out. Like he did a great job where he'll step in with the side kick like he did. Then go with the 1-2, then the knee to the body, then exit out. Or he'll go jump in with the knee to the body and then hit 1-2. Like it was a brilliant performance. Like Calvin Kattar in the fight seemed like he was trying to get the right moment and the right punch, the right counter, the right 1-2 combination to kind of put Max Holloway on his back, because Calvin Kattar does have power and he has a brilliant boxer.
Precision is key for that man.
Right. And I thought that with Max Holloway did everything to break the flow of Calvin Kattar to where Calvin Kattar could not get a beat. And as Calvin Kattar is taking punishment, he's only able to fire back one shot. While meanwhile, Max Holloway is throwing 3, 4, 5 shots and exiting it out.
Now, what's interesting about this fight is that at 145, Holloway seems to eat shots a lot better than at 155.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it seems to me that he can take a lot. And don't get me wrong, Kattar hit him with some very good shots that could have stunned a lot of other people. But Holloway at 145, I just don't know. This man is not untouchable, but he is next level. Like he's the best 145er in my opinion.
Agreed.
He is the best for 145. Like Aldo is the number 2 in my spot. Is the number
Agreed.
2, and I apologize. I respect Jose Aldo. That man has carried the 145 belt for like the man is it. There's always one guy you can't beat in your career for some reason, and unfortunately, Holloway found that in Volkanovski. But the second fight really was Holloway's, right? And the fight with Holloway and Aldo, Holloway clearly won both. Was tagged up in both and still came out. But when he jumped to 155, he had the power of Dustin, right? I think if we gave Holloway time, I mean, I'm just a tangent here. If we gave him time to adjust to 155, I bet you he could take those shots and land just as good. But back to the 145 thing. I mean, this fight just solidified why there aren't that many better people in this division than Max Holloway. There really isn't.
Yeah, so I'm looking at these strikes, right? So the strikes landed today by Max Holloway. He landed 2,500 significant strikes in totality of his UFC career, right? That's the most in anybody in the UFC.
Yeah.
The second person behind him is Joanna Jędrzejczyk with 1,711. So he's that far ahead of the competition and that far ahead of his peers that he stands above everybody else. Like he is the greatest featherweight, UFC featherweight of all time. You can maybe say, look at Aldo's outside UFC career, and maybe you can make a better argument for Aldo.
You can make an argument for Pitbull too from Bellator.
Yes, right. Just in the UFC, Aldo is, I mean, Aldo.
Holloway.
Max Holloway is the greatest featherweight in UFC's history.
Like there is no argument. There is no.
No.
There could be an argument, but the end of that argument ends with Max Holloway. Max Holloway being the greatest UFC featherweight of all time. That's actually how that argument ends.
Yeah, and like,
but the most interesting part, Tyrese, can you talk about the significant strikes thrown in this fight? I mean, from the 1-2 to the body kicks.
Yeah, it was amazing. Max Holloway. Yeah, there is a little bit of lag, but I can still.
I'm gonna leave and come back.
Sure. In the Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar fight, we've seen 604 strikes thrown by Max Holloway. He landed 363. Calvin Kattar, he threw 226. He landed 108. Like that, there's that much of a difference between Calvin Kattar and Max Holloway in this fight, and just look at this fight and look at the Alex Volkanovski fight, and it makes you appreciate Alex Volkanovski even more because Alex Volkanovski was able to hang with Max Holloway and even able to get the better of him in most exchanges. This one showed us that Alex Volkanovski is legit good featherweight, and I would love to see that fight down the line. But also Max Holloway, like Elijah said, I would love to see Max Holloway at lightweight at one point. Like if Max Holloway can do this type of performance at lightweight, it'll be interesting.
Max Holloway, if given time to adjust to 155, and I look at Poirier, I maybe I shouldn't, right? And I look at Poirier as a guy who adjusted from being at 145 to 155 within a few fights. No one does it in one fight. I haven't seen anyone too successful besides Conor, and Conor immediately fought for the belt. Right. So besides Conor, there hasn't been anyone who's gone up from 145 to 155 and had that kind of transitionary success right away. Maybe there's a fighter somewhere down the line. I may have to look it up, possibly. But I think for a championship guy like Max, give him time to get to that 155 body, feel it out, give him some good people, and he could be a 155 champion as well as the, again, 145er. It just
agreed.
Max can be a champ. Max for sure can. He has all the creative tools to be a champ.
And by the way, but like I mentioned before, you was exiting out. Sorry guys, this sometimes the stream it acts up. Sometimes there's nothing we can really do about it. We just gotta roll with it. Out of the 363 strikes that were landed by Max Holloway, 361 were significant. That means only 2 strikes were deemed insignificant in that whole entire fight. That's how insane Max Holloway is. Max Holloway is a demon. I said it in the post. Like Max Holloway, this performance. I've never seen anything like this. Like out the gate to have that type of pace and to keep that pace up for 5 rounds for 25 minutes is absolutely insane. And he took some shots from Calvin Kattar too.
And the thing is, a lot of people don't realize Calvin Kattar works better when he, 1, is pushing forward and 2, able to counter. Max, the biggest thing that I thought was the smartest part of any game plan that Max came up with is to not let him reset.
Right.
He did not back off. He didn't give this guy space. He stood on him, took 8 shots when he could, but ended up dodging most of them. And then in the fourth and fifth round, he was talking to Calvin Kattar's corner. Saying, I'm the best boxer in UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
He was dancing on him, did a little bit of robot on him, the little breaking, like Max Holloway. Max Holloway looked like he was having fun out there. They brought up a point to say that he's not sparring, so maybe that's the sparring has led to him being more energetic and being more fresh in these fights.
Maybe less burnout, things like that. As injuries occurred. I don't want to say we're going to see this movement of people who aren't sparring before, because some people, do better with sparring, some people don't.
Right.
But what Max Holloway has been able to do during quarantine, this man will forever go down as one of my top 3 UFC fighters of all time.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, man. Even the Volkanovski fight, like he looked impressive.
He came back better, in my opinion, and the reason as to why is because he dropped Volkanovski in round 1 and round 2. While Volkanovski did hurt him in the first round, he never, from my recollection, I don't think he dropped Max, right? He
No.
never dropped Max. He hurt him, he caught him with some, when he does that kind of phase shift and he goes like right, he steps, turns, catches with a hook, right? When he does those kind of movements or like shifts and catches with an overhand, he hurt Max, but never to the degree that Poirier did, right? So when you just compare it and you look at it and you look at this fight, it's just Max put on a clinic. Max put on what we call a striking clinic. Didn't take it to the ground, tried to take down, didn't work, and said, you know what, fuck it. Let's go back to boxing. And 1-2, 1-2. And he's not doing it where it's like the greatest. He's mixing it up head, body, right? Throwing in a spinning back kick to trying to get the liver, right? Max's 1-2s kind of, they're sometimes stuttered. They're sometimes 1-1-2, 1-2, 2-2-1. Like, they're never exactly so they're in such rhythm, but the rhythm changes per combo. It's the same combo, but the rhythm just changes ever so slightly, and it was so hard for Kattar to really read that rhythm of those punches. I don't know, man. Holloway is, I'm hyped because it's the first fight card of the year, but Holloway proved why he is still championship material, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Elijah, the thing about the Dustin Poirier fights you bring up, Dustin Poirier got hurt in that fight with Max Holloway. Like, it wasn't like it was a one-sided beatdown, and Dustin Poirier was wearing on Max Holloway. Dustin Poirier was the bigger and stronger guy because of just Max Holloway. I think he came in like himself and not as a lightweight. He looked very similar to his featherweight frame.
He probably didn't cut as much weight as he usually does. That's it.
Yes, and we always say, add a little bit more muscle. What with a little bit more punching power behind that, what would he look like in lightweight? But even in that fight, he hurt Dustin Poirier a couple of times in that fight.
Had him on the fence.
Had him on the fence, and he even had him in a position where maybe he could have one shot or two shots more. He could have maybe landed some damage to maybe TKO him in the fight. But I thought Max Holloway tonight proved that he's among the best 145ers and one of the best in the UFC. Now speaking to Calvin Kattar is tough, but do you think the fight could have been stopped?
The fight, okay. So when we look at the actions of the ref stopping the fight, like, we look at the fighter no longer able to continue. The issue with Calvin Kattar is that he generally pushes forward. He's a great boxer, so he can, if he gets his rhythm right, he can counter. Right. Now Max was hurting him in the first and second round. The third round, we saw him kind of like, we see the third round Maxes, we kind of see where like the opponents can kind of, I guess, read him on some sort, or they can land big shots, but for the majority of the fight for that round, Max is beating them, right? Like, they're landing big shots, but Max really is beating them. If you look at this, like, fight, strikes landed, strikes thrown, significant strikes, right? You could go to the scorecard and you can look round per round. He beats them when it comes to those things, but for some reason, their bigger shots seem to sometimes like get broadcasted just vaguely better than his, right? That happened maybe 2 to 3 times in that third round, and then like, that was it. So when going into the fourth round, when he ended up catching Holloway with these weird counters when Holloway was teaming off of him, it seemed as if he's still there. He was never for a moment not there, but I don't think it should have been stopped.
Mm-hmm.
But if it did get stopped, I would understand.
Okay.
I don't think I really wouldn't say it should have been stopped, because he was there. His legs didn't buckle. He was hurt, but he was recovered. He was covering up to a certain degree. He didn't go down. Like there's a lot of factors when you say stop a fight, right? At least for me, the fight could have been stopped, but this is, this has title implications. A lot is on the line. You let these guys go. Now, Kattar did take a lot of damage. I will say that. And that's the unfortunate part about this sport. Damage is involved, but I don't think the fight should have been stopped. What about you?
That's interesting, because I honestly thought the fight should have been stopped. I thought the fight should have been stopped in the fourth round. Particularly, like, I understood the thought process that Calvin Kattar is still throwing. he's still able to throw, and he's still able to land on Max Holloway. But that's because Max Holloway was letting him at that point. It wasn't like Max Holloway was moving around. Max Holloway stood in front of him and was daring him to punch back, because he was going to have something for him. And if you look at the fourth round, Calvin Kattar's out on his feet. Like, he's standing up, and he's in the corner, and he's standing up, but he's wobbling. You can see him. You can see him visibly wobbling and able to get his bearings, and just the fight goes on.
That was probably his worst round. That was probably his worst round, in my opinion.
You can make an argument. The 5th round, the 4th round was his worst round.
Didn't you just say the 4th round? You said after the 4th round, he said he was wobbling, or before the 4th round?
No, I said the 4th round. I said the 4th round, but I said you even said the 5th round or the 4th round was the worst round for Calvin Kattar. Like even the first round, as competitive as it was a one-sided beating.
Wasn't that competitive? It was good.
Yeah, it was a one-sided beating. It was one-sided beating. There was nothing really. As great as Calvin Kattar is, and he's tough. Tough. The fight could have been stopped in the 4th round, let alone the 5th round. The 5th round, I thought it was completely done, and at that point, it was just taking more beatings. Because at that point, Max Holloway is looking at the announcers, talking to the announcers, and is daring Calvin Kattar to throw something. And Calvin Kattar looks battered and bloodied, and his nose is broken, his ribs is maybe busted, and he's just trying to tough it out. But Max Holloway is just throwing everything at him. There's no answer for it.
You want to know why I say because Max, I'm not saying that Max couldn't finish him, right? But Max also had to be careful because in the 3rd round when he was running into him, he was catching some like counter shots that were like kind of stumbling Max, but it just wasn't enough at that point. There was nothing stopping his momentum, right? But when you look at the end of the fight, like when they're like walking up, all this stuff, when it's finally calmed down, Kattar did get his ass whooped, but he wasn't wobbling. It wasn't like he had to drop. And then body language looking into the 4th and 5th round. Yes, that fight could have been stopped. But what Kattar did, which was smart to his advantage, was when he got into these exchanges with Max, he would cover up and try to go. He would feign to go one way and try to circle out. Now, that was one of the reasons as to why I'm pretty sure they didn't stop the fight, was the way he was circling around and keeping mobility. He didn't fall. He didn't look wobbly when he was doing it, but you could tell he was hurt. And anyone who's watched UFC, you could tell he was hurt, and the announcers were calling it. He's hurt. He's hurt. But he just didn't go down. He stumbled maybe a little bit, but he managed to stay up. It's just the circling, the way it happened.
It's one thing to be coherent and able to function and able to circle out and able to land and able to counter, and what he did, he's able to counter it against the cage and he's able to throw something. But when you don't have anything to give, and you're the coaches, and you know that this person has nothing to give at this point. It's been 4 rounds, and we've seen him battered. If you notice at the end of the fight, they do a zoom in. There's a huge cut on the top of his head. Not on the top of his head, a big gash from the elbows. At that point, as a coach, again, this is maybe not my place to say, but just in my opinion, because we have to do a show, we got to talk about opinions. I would have stopped that fight. Like, I just have him. That 4th round is particularly like we're not gonna hit a Hail Mary and knock this guy out. And we're just gonna accrue more damage as the fight goes on. Let's save his brain and save his body for another day, and not let him absorb 100 more punches. Or how many punches? What? I think he threw 8 significant strikes in the 4th round.
Only in the 4th round alone. That's the crazy part. I'll say this: I don't think you're wrong in what you're saying. I won't disagree. Fight could have been stopped, but when there's so much on the line, and I can understand why he probably was like told his coaches, don't stop this fight. Like they probably I gotta be honest with you, they probably didn't see this fight going that way. And then you heard them yell, I think at the beginning of round 3, like game change. There's like, we change the game plan. There was nothing they could do. By the 3rd round, you realize there was really nothing they could do to change this fight. Max Holloway had secured this fight by the 3rd round. Latest. Round 1 and 2 just showed how great he was. Round 3, when you showed us like a little bit of offense from Kattar, but he had nothing else to bring after he had that little bit of offense. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, it's a different lifestyle. I don't live that lifestyle, so I don't want to say what I would do, but realistically, if you compare this fight to the fight with Gaethje versus Tony, there's very I won't say there's very big differences, but there's differences. It's similar, but there's differences. Tony started running away from Gaethje with no strikes thrown for like a good maybe minute plus. Calvin Kattar was trying to land jabs, was still trying to go to, killing his counters, but wasn't able to hand anything. with the Tony fight, not only did you see him hurt, but like the way his body language was, Calvin Kattar had body language like that, but ended up circling out in a different way. Tony would turn and looking for a way to go, but Gaethje was there. So you could
It's
say
different. It's different
it's
from the standpoint of the fighters itself. Like Calvin Kattar is still, to me, fresher in his career than Tony Ferguson.
And he didn't. It's just different fight. Like there's a lot of things we can look at, and be like, stop it early, not stop it early. This argument, no, sorry, this conversation could go on forever. But realistically, if you look at like what should be stopped and what shouldn't, I don't know if this should have been stopped. I could understand if it was, though.
Gotcha.
I will say that. I don't think it should have been stopped, but I could understand for sure. After the 4th round, stopped it. Like, I understand. There's a lot of damage at that point. Save him. We'll be back another day. But then again, the fighter wants to, the fighter fights. The fighter fights at the end of the day.
By the way, I want to correct myself. So in the 4th round, Max Holloway had 141 significant strikes in the 4th round. That's landed. That's landed. He landed 141 strikes in that 4th round.
Moving on.
So again, this is a phenomenal performance by Max Holloway. Whether we think the fight could have been stopped or not is a different story. It did go on 5 rounds.
Yeah. We did say that. We did say that when we talked to each other. We said if this fight gets stopped, it's either between rounds 3 and 4, which we kind of thought it would be based on the way it was going. But we said realistically, the smart bet, if you were betting money, would be that this fight goes the distance.
And I thought, as we like I said, we talked during the fight. I thought that this fight was going to get stopped after the 1st round. I thought, okay, Max Holloway's going to finish him just by how much he was able to land on Calvin Kattar in the 1st round. I was like, okay, there's no way this goes anywhere good for Calvin Kattar. There's just no way after Max Holloway gets the momentum he has and he's able to get that range. There's just hard to get him off of you. But Calvin Kattar, again, he's tough and he stuck it out and he's able to survive for 5 rounds. Now, moving on, though, we have a fight announcement that Volkanovski is going to fight Brian Ortega in March, which, again, we kind of talked about it before last year, where we talked about if we're Max Holloway's camp, and we said, what is the easiest path to get back to a title? We said, okay, let Max Holloway fight a different opponent for the time being.
Step away from the title.
Right. Don't go for the trilogy, because sometimes with the trilogy, once you lose that fight, there's no chance of you going back for a featherweight title. And we talked about how, Volkanovski has given Max Holloway his toughest problems in terms of just stylistically. That's been a tough matchup for Max Holloway to win decisively. Yeah. So we said, let Max Holloway fight somebody else in the time being, whether it's lightweight or featherweight, let somebody fight somebody else, and then have Volkanovski fight Ortega. Yep. And we're getting that. We're getting Ortega versus Volkanovski next, which means that if the winner of that may fight Max Holloway. If it's Ortega, great. That's Ortega versus Max Holloway too. Max Holloway did the same thing he did to Calvin Kattar to Ortega. Yep. So that's some good news for Max Holloway. Or if it's a Volkanovski fight, I think this Max Holloway looks a lot different in the trilogy fight with Volkanovski.
Yeah, I think if regardless of what's happening, what's next for Max really is technically the belt, right? You could make the argument he could fight Zabit, right? We could possibly see that, right? That's like option B or C down the line. Right. Realistically, with the performance that he just had, not only has his stock is obviously still there, his stock has risen now, because on a free platform, he's now a household name to many people who weren't watching, people who were watching, and people who always supported. So realistically, like we've talked about before, Holloway's fighting for the belt next, and it's really all dependent. We could get that fight maybe this year, sometime in International Fight Week, right? We could get it maybe sometimes later in the fall, but realistically, Holloway's next. It's indisputable.
Agreed, and I do think the last statement he made in his post fight was interesting about the McGregor and Poirier. Yeah. Do you see a scenario where God forbid, one fighter can't make it because, again, COVID, we're still dealing with COVID time. If somebody tests positive, then they're out the fight. Do you see Max Holloway getting a call and then move to that main event?
I think Holloway would be an interesting. I think Holloway, yes, would. He's not definitely if he's cleared to fight after the medical checks, right?
Right.
If we're looking at to see the suspensions, because a fight like a 5-round fight, technically we always see guys at least get a minimum 7 days, and 7 days from today would be next Saturday. So realistically, right? Like, and that's they probably UFC could probably manipulate it and be like 3 to 4 day suspension, right? But we typically see guys get somewhere between like, if they look good, and don't have any injuries, anywhere between like a 4 to 6 day suspension, you
Right.
know. But realistically, UFC could pull strings and have him fight, right? I think that's a very big. I think that's a possibility. I do think Poirier and Conor are going to fight, though. I think when it comes down to it, those guys weigh at 155, and they both come down and fight for at lightweight. I'm sorry. I think that fight comes to fruition. I don't think there's anything blocking that. There's no juju blocking that fight.
Well, again, we can't really predict anything. We got to deal with possible testing and these other issues. So who knows? God forbid, again, these things happen. But we have seen cases where fighters are ready to go on fight day, or like this today. I think there was another fight. I forgot his name, but he was supposed to fight on this card.
I know who you're talking about.
Phil Hawes.
Phil Hawes was supposed to
on this card, and he got hurt.
Yeah, last minute. That's fair.
So like anything can happen.
True. I will say again, Max is next for the belt. I'm interested to see who the winner of Volkanovski versus Ortega. As for Kattar, I would love to see him fight someone like Chan Sung Young. Maybe get him in there with someone like maybe Arnold Allen, maybe Josh Emmett, those kind of guys. I like the division where the division is at right now because we have some hungry fighters. Youssef Sadiq, right? You have not Jeremy Stevens, sorry. What's his name? Shane Burgos. You have a lot of people he could possibly fight. And these are guys that Kattar's beaten already. So realistically, the only matchup that makes sense to him was someone who's recently lost as well, Chan Sung Young. That fight's gonna come to fruition. I've called it.
Or I honestly just thinking about it because Zabit is a problem where Zabit has tried this Yair Rodriguez fight multiple times and the fight can't get through.
Yeah, they don't even know if Yair is going to be on the roster anymore. They said it's been hard to get in contact with him.
Yeah. I think he has some issues going on.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was sickness related or just physical injuries, but I would love to see a Zabit versus Calvin Kattar fight in a 5-round fight, which again we talked about before. Like if that fight goes 5 rounds, what would have happened with Zabit? Because Calvin Kattar got better as the fight goes on. I think that'd be a great main event to happen, is to see Calvin Kattar versus Zabit in a real 5-round fight.
Yeah, run it back. I agree.
Right. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Elijah. Was there anything else on this card that stuck out to you? I thought every one of these fights were solid.
Every fight delivered. First and foremost, I want to shout out to a woman who by far surpassed. I didn't even know her name, and now I'm a fan. I follow her on IG. Jocelyn Edwards came in on short notice to fight Wu Yanan, right? At 135 women's bantamweight. She looked impressive. She didn't lose control. She engaged. She pushed forward. She's known as an aggressive fighter outside of UFC, but getting picked up at 135, especially against Wu Yanan, who's known to be a good fighter, very good, bouncy, good with striking, and good with grappling to a degree. Jocelyn Edwards not only showed up, she showed out with a unanimous decision.
Right.
And I was pretty impressed by that. She's someone who I'm going to be looking forward to their next fight, because I think with an actual camp, she could be a problem for a lot of people in that division.
Yeah, I was impressed by her pace. I was impressed that she was able to keep that pace on short notice.
Good pace, tough chin, good grappling, good grappling, and good hands. Good strike, good fight IQ, because there's a lot of moments where she knew when to kind of be patient, and a lot of moments where she would kind of like blitz, and the blitzes were working, right? Like with a blitz, you can either see someone just fade off to left or right and not get caught, or a blitz, someone gets hurt.
Right. But, I was impressed by her dexterity too, where she's able to throw a kick, and then if she misses that kick, follow it with a back kick, which landed on Wu.
Yeah. Technique.
Yes, technique. I was definitely impressed by her. The heavyweight fight delivered as well. I thought Tafa. Honestly, I thought he had the fight.
I thought he had the fight too.
up into the second round where he made it a little bit more closer than it probably should have been. I thought he had a better chance on the outside and picking apart Felipe, but Felipe brought the fight to him.
Yeah, I think the infighting is what kind of hurt him because Felipe, he's a smaller heavyweight, but he's got fast hands. He lands these body shots that are kind of crazy. That's actually what ended up hurting Tafa at a certain point. And then Tafa got hit with a shot to the left eye, and you could see it wasn't right from there as well, right? So again, Felipe, he pulled it out. I'm impressed. Unfortunately, Santiago Ponzinibbio, he came back and suffered a knockout first round. And I felt bad because the man's been out for 3 years, give or take, and he was at the time he was at the top of the division, but he got knocked out, and unfortunately, again, that proves that anyone in UFC could get the hands, anybody.
And speaking of people getting their hands, we saw somebody that was being pushed as the rising star of the UFC,
highlight reel.
Joaquin Buckley lose to Alessio Di Chirico.
Chirico.
There we go. See, I'm getting 2020. I'm getting names right. 2020, I'm getting names right.
2021. Yo, get this. Yo, UFC. Anyone, promotion, who you want? Sign this man.
I'd rather be independent.
Get this man money.
I'd rather be independent. Anyway, I thought that fight was interesting to see and how it played out. Buckley, I feel like ever since that amazing knockout, they've been pumping Buckley up, and they've been trying to move him up as a rising star. They did the same thing with Chaos Williams as well. With Chaos Williams, they tried to, after that knockout, they tried to push him as the next rising star. And the UFC's trying, and they're looking. But I appreciate them actually actively. This is one of our biggest criticisms sometimes, is that sometimes they don't wait. They wait to push the button on some people.
Yeah, and they put some people too early, some people too late, some people they don't even look at.
Right, and they tried, and I got to give the UFC credit. They actually tried to push the button on Buckley and Chaos Williams, but sometimes that knockout, you kind of get lost in. I have to chase that knockout. I have to blame it. I have to get the knockout. I can recreate that, and there's pressure to that. And
for sure,
I thought with Buckley, I thought that he was trying to be himself. This fight, especially, he's trying to be himself, and I thought he was still looking for the knockout, but not too much. And it's one of those things where he just got caught in the moment, and he got caught. I guess trying to duck down for a was it an uppercut? I was confused on how he got low like that.
So the thing about Buckley, being that he's 5'10", 185 pounds,
right?
In the middleweight division, generally the guys are anywhere between 5'11", 6 foot, really at the least between 6 foot and 6'2", right? You have exceptions to the rule like Israel Adesanya, right? Guy's 6'4". Kelvin Gastelum, 5'9", right? When you're lower in height, right, you tend to, it's easier to land head kicks for people like that. So when in Buckley's style, Buckley, bob, slip, right?
Yeah.
So with that kind of not peekaboo, but staying low to the ground and trying to get your way in style, there's pluses and there's minuses to that. There's benefits to that style because he can knock you out, which he's shown to do, right? But the other side of that is that if you get a guy who can strike and he can kind of gauge range and get their range, it makes it significantly hard. And that's exactly what happened in the fight with the dude who just knocked out Jacare, Kevin Holland. In the fight with Kevin Holland played distance perfectly. And this is going to be now a moment in Joaquin Buckley's career where he has to find some way to overcome not being able to get the distance because he's 5'10" in a division where guys are generally bigger than him. If anything, this is a learning experience because I think Joaquin Buckley he's explosive. He has good hands.
Yeah,
he's young enough.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the end. This is not the end.
No, we're both not saying this is the end of him. I'm more or less saying that, this is kind of an experience to where like he had the viral knockout. Now he has to kind of rebound off of that. And, the UFC, hopefully they'll put him in spots to where he could be a showcase a little bit more. I know it's hard in the UFC to be able to look good against a lot of fighters, but hopefully to put him in positions where he can showcase more and really rebound and really grow him. Something that Bellator does really well is Bellator is able to groom and grow talent. And I felt that with this one, Buckley faced a guy that a little bit bigger and has some wars himself and has been through some tough fights himself.
Alessio Chirico has fought some really good people at middleweight.
Yeah, and I thought this is something where hopefully Buckley can rebound. I think there still is he still has a long career ahead of him. I think he has. I was impressed by him when his first fight, even before the viral knockout, and I'm interested to see where it goes from here. But let me ask you this: what is your rating for this card? Because I honestly, it's hard for me not to give it anything but an A+, just because of Max Holloway's performance and because of ABC.
Sir, we agree. I think we've solved that. There's no need to even discuss that further. A+.
It's a little biased because again, you usually grade the card overall as itself, but just the significance of them being on ABC, the fact they even got that deal to begin with to even go on ABC.
That's one.
And then to have Max Holloway in front of probably a brand new audience that may not even watch UFC, to have that type of performance, like those two things alone for me bring up to an A+. So I want to go back and watch the Max Holloway fight again.
The third defining factor for me was that every fight was exciting. Every fight was exciting. From Austin Lingo versus Jacob Kilburn, great fight, great scrap, right? Vanessa Mello versus Sarah Morris, one of the slower paced fight, but not bad at all, right? You see Ramazan Ameev versus David Zavada. Great fight, in my opinion. Zaviv is someone to watch out for. That's two. I mean, I can go up down this list. Every fight was good to me. And even Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown.
Oh my God, the grappling exchange between those two was phenomenal.
I mean, it sucks that we got this at the time we did because we have wanted this for a
while, for a long time.
Since Robbie Lawler was champion. Since not even since Robbie Lawler was champion. Since Matt Brown fought Robbie Lawler for the belt. Right before he got to the belt. We've wanted that matchup ever since he lost to Robbie Lawler, right? So like when we saw this, it was like, wow, we got what we got. And Carlos Condit proved he still got the heart. And Matt Brown at 40 years old he can give a lot of people problems. Not everybody. A lot of people.
I think he could give people problems. I'm a little bit hesitant to say. I wonder about his health.
Yeah,
because I'm not gonna worry about fighters' health. I thought on any other fight card, this could have been the fight of the night. But it just happened to be, a fight card with Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar, to where they're gonna get fight of the night. Max Holloway's gonna get a bonus on top of a bonus. And just Max Holloway's performance alone for me. Again, I'm wowed and amazed by it, to where I text you and call you and like, oh my God, are you seeing this?
I called you and screamed.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, this is an A+ for me. I can't give it anything less than that.
How often? I mean, since we've been fans, how often? Like we never saw the Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin fight. We never saw that. We never saw that. We like that's just not our time, right?
Right.
But what we witnessed was literally like Max Holloway. What happened tonight? Certified Hall of Famer.
Agreed.
Solidified for sure. Man's breaking striking records.
And he may even go down as one of the greatest of all time. Like, period.
No words.
That's the how, like he had that performance today where it's like, we gotta start putting you on these lists. We gotta start, when we mention the greatest of all time, we gotta mention Max Holloway in that regard as well.
On that pound for pound list, he jumps up today. Bet you he jumps up.
I would think so.
Sure. I for sure believe he'll jump up. But again, great card, A+ quality. I love it here. I gotta say,
this is the first thing. We still got next week. We got Chiesa versus Neil Magny. I know flat politics is interested to see how Chiesa does. I'm interested to see that too. And then Saturday we have Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, which we will be doing a preview show to discuss Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Please look out for that coming up next week. And I may have a more of an announcement to get to you guys that may pertain to you and how we can interact with you more. So again, 2021, I'm looking to do more, have more fun, and really communicate with you guys.
I mean, again, we're happy to be back. It's 2021. Hopefully this year gets better. We know that COVID numbers are starting to get high again, but we know that the vaccine is rolling out. So hopefully if you are going to take the vaccine, good for you. If you're choosing not to, understandable. Just please stay safe. Wear your mask. There should be no issues if we do all this, because we could really get out of all this shit. I'm trying to have a good 2021 summer, bro. I'm not playing. I'm not playing.
Oh, you know what? We didn't even talk about this for a second, but real quick. What do you think about the fans attending the show tonight?
I see no issue if we're properly making sure that they're an acceptable amount of distance where no one can get the virus, and two, we're screening people before they come. I see no issue with that. I see no issue. Now, if those things aren't happening, that puts everybody who's there and is going through those proper protocols at a higher risk. But I just don't see Dana leaving that as a countermeasure, as something that could affect his show that he's been able to put on successfully for the X amount of months. I just don't.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, the guidelines that they give, because I looked into this, the guidelines they give to you attending these events. One, you can't have any bags, you can't have any strolls, stuff like that. Two, you have to get multiple screening checks before you go to the event. There's multiple protocols they have in place for you to even qualify to even go to this event. So they have a pretty nice what do you want to say? A nice damn it! It's been a long time. They have a tight lid on the situation. They have a tight lid on the situation and what they are going to and not going to allow. So I thought that was good. Anything else you want to add to the show?
Nope, I'm just happy to be back, brother. You know me. It got so crazy that I actually even joined, because I don't watch any other sport besides UFC or basketball. I mean, UFC or boxing. I barely watch basketball. It's just because I watch with my brother. But it got so boring for me that I joined a fantasy basketball league.
Oh.
Harry, when have you ever heard me talk about basketball?
No, ever. That's not something you particularly partake in,
sir. I'm not last. I'm not last. No. So I don't know. Here we are.
But we're glad to be back. We're glad to be doing this. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and hopefully you'll enjoy our prediction show, and hopefully you'll join us next Sunday. We're going to do a Sunday show covering Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, and we'll tackle Chiesa versus Neil Magny as well, because me and you are both going to be working on Wednesday during the day. So that's going to be out of our wheelhouse.
I damn sure be watching it, though. I'll tell you that much.
Most definitely. All right. Signing off. My name is Tyrese Simon.
Elijah Jones, and thank you, Tyrese, for giving us a great intro to the show.
Why couldn't you do that at the beginning of the show? That's all I ask. That's all I ask for.
Sir.